Okay, so there's been a wardrobe change, except for the hat. This is really part two of my "It's summer and I don't care what I look like" phase. Anyway, in this chapter, chapter 30, we're dealing with one of the great composers of the classical era, Franz Joseph Haydn. Now, Haydn is considered kind of the grandfather of the classical era. He was the oldest of the first Viennese school, right? Or the first group of composers that came out of Vienna during this era. Remember, that's Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven. But he's the oldest. In fact, everyone called him Papa, kind of as a sign of respect. He also is the composer who is responsible for kind of perfecting and solidifying the form and structure of the classical string quartet as well as the classical symphony. Now, this symphony, the Surprise Symphony, has a nickname, Surprise, for a very specific reason. Now, I think you'll figure it out once you listen to the piece. But this is the reason I love Haydn, for pieces like this. He has a wicked sense of humor. Remember that he would write a symphony, and it would be performed at court at Prince Esterhazy's palace, most likely. And so everyone in fancy dresses and powdered wigs and fake little moles on their face would show up and come and listen. And this is the second movement of a symphony. And during that, or within that multi-movement cycle, the second movement would be a theme and variations most often. Write a tune and then vary it by changing the tempo, changing who's got the melody, changing the harmony, any variety of ways, thus variation. But it was often slow, a slow movement. And so people would fall asleep in the middle of the concert. And that kind of pissed Haydn off. He's like, listen, I've written this great tune and I've shown you my compositional chops by changing it up and making it different for you, and all you're doing is snoring. F you, I'm going to wake you up. And that's exactly what this piece does. It's quiet, it's soft, it's like little tiptoes. And then BAM! An unexpected loud chord to wake everybody up. Haydn has this great sense of humor in many of his works. In fact, my favorite piece that he's written is called his Farewell Symphony. Remember also that he wrote over 100 symphonies, which is crazy. Mozart only wrote 41, Beethoven only wrote 9. Now granted, Beethoven's symphonies are much longer than Haydn's symphonies, much bigger works. But still, 100 plus symphonies for Haydn. So in the Farewell Symphony, basically what happens is Prince Esterhazy says, hey, I'm going to my summer palace. I want the band to come. Bring them. They didn't have much warning. They weren't sure how long they were going to be gone, which kind of sucks. They all had to pack up. The whole orchestra had to pack up and move out to this fancy country estate. Granted, it was nice, but still they had to leave their family kind of unannounced. So Haydn says, well, how long are we going to be gone? Prince Esterhazy says, oh, I don't know, 2-3 weeks. I got some fancy people I got to entertain. Maybe a little longer, but I'll let you go home soon, I promise. Well, after 2 months of being stuck and being promised, oh, it'll be next week. Oh, it'll be Friday. Oh, wait, no, we got something on Sunday. Finally, Haydn says, all right, I'm going to get you. And Haydn writes this Farewell Symphony. Remember that the last movement of a symphony is meant to be boisterous, a finale, kind of like the end of a fireworks show. And you know what Haydn does? He gives you all that energy, all that excitement. And then, one by one, he tells the instruments to walk off stage in the middle of the piece. One by one, every instrument just stops playing, gets frustrated, and walks off stage. Until there's only 2 players left. 2 violins, and finally they pack up and leave. Now imagine what that scene would be. There's Prince Esterhazy sitting in the front, looking regal in his golden fancy clothes and his powdered wigs. All of his most important friends, international dignitaries, all sitting there enjoying this concert, expecting a grand finale, and everybody just walks off stage. Everything just kind of falls apart. They would laugh. They would giggle. They might even be mad. And guess what Prince Esterhazy is? Humiliated and embarrassed publicly. Now, anywhere else in the world, you do this to your boss, you probably lose your head. You at least go to prison for a while. Haydn was so famous and so important and had such a good relationship with Prince Esterhazy that he could basically give him the finger and say, "Peace out, bro," publicly and get away with it. It's one of the things I love about Haydn. Great composer. Listen to his music and really see what he's doing. It's very graceful, very elegant. It's also got a wicked sense of humor built in.